Okay, Bill Withers, Ain't No Sunshine. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Good, great tune, but pretty simple. So it's just those parts with the slightly difficult timing. So I'm looking at the sheet now that you're working from, and we've got one and let's turn this up a bit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Now that's okay, yeah? And you can hear it. It's good to look at the tab and to look above the tab at the standard notation. Yeah, let me just move that over there so I can more easily move between the two. Yeah, good to look at the standard notation above because then you get more of a sense of the timing. But of course, you also really want... Oh, sorry. You also really want to get a sense of the timing from listening to it, yeah? Now, that first bit's very easy in terms of timing and playing. I mean, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Now, what's happening there in the timing, if you look at the standard notation above the tab, you can see you hit that, yeah, 5th fret, low E string, and you've got a minim, yeah, which is 2 beats, 1 and 2 and we're in 4/4, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and 3 E and a 4 and. Now, why did I go 3 E and a? Because you can see that minim, which is the head with an empty, like an empty circle rather than a filled-in circle. Filled-in circle is like a crotchet, which lasts for 1 beat. The empty circle is a minim, and it's still got a tail, so that means it's 2 beats. Now it's tied to the next beat. Now that next beat, you can see it's got a dot on it, and it's got a tail. So the tail means that it's a quaver, so that means it's an 8th note. The dot means it's half as much again. The value of it is half as much again. So an 8th note lasts half a beat. 1 and is 2 quavers, or 2 8th notes, yeah? The 1 beat, evenly divided, 1 and, yeah? Now, a subdivision of that is semiquavers, which instead of 1 and, which is quavers, is that each quaver is divided. So you've got 1 E and a. So basically 4 units in a beat rather than 2 units in a beat. And so we have a dotted quaver, which is the equivalent of 3 semiquavers, and then the 0, because we got this run. 2 and 3 and a. That run, the first note, the open E string, you can see again in the standard notation, it's got 2 tails on it. It's joined to the note before it by 1 tail. Yeah, it's got the tail and the tag. I don't know what to call it. The thing anyway. You can see basically the horizontal line that is joining notes together. Yeah, you've got the head of the note, the tail of the note, and then the line. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called a tail actually. So anyway, that horizontal line joins notes together, yeah, to make it easier for reading notes of the same value, usually. And these notes are a dotted quaver, because it's just got that 1 long line, and then a semiquaver, because it's got 2 lines. Now I know 1 is long and 1 is short, 2 tails attached to the vertical. God, what do we call it? The vertical tail. Let's think of the terms at some point. But anyway, if you've got the tab in front of you, you can see what I mean. So how do you count that? Well, we've got 1 and 2 and, yeah, that's the minim. And then it's tied to the next note, which is that dotted quaver. So this A note lasts 1 and 2 and 3 E and then the open E string note comes on the 3 E and a, yeah, because it's the last semiquaver of beat 3. 3 E and a, 4 and then you've 3 E and a, 4 and, yeah. and then frets 3 and 4, look above, I mean just above the standard notation again, and you see 2 quavers, yeah, again joined, yeah, because they're both quavers, so you tend to get that join. So they've got the black circle, the line up, which I'm going to call the tail, and then the line across, which I'm going to call the join, because I can't think what it's called. So, and the timing of those, yeah, last 2 notes are quavers, or 8th notes, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and, yeah? So if I play that bar again, this is the second bar, 1 and 2 and 3 E and I got it wrong. What I had in my head when I was doing that, I mean, like I said, the best way to get this is just listening to it and getting the timing from listening to it, but it's also a good exercise, maybe you've got time now, to do this thing of counting it as well, because that brings it into your body in a different way. That brings it through, a conscious way of thinking about it. And eventually they meet up, the way of feeling it and the way of thinking it, and things become a lot clearer about how things are timed. Timings in music and how they're notated, written, portrayed, no, written will do. So I'm counting, when I'm on that minim, I don't need to count 1 eander, 2 eander, because I'm not using any of those subdivisions, so I can just count simply 1, 2, or 1 and 2 and. But as soon as I get to that third beat, I want to start counting the subdivisions of semiquavers, because my notes, actually use those subdivisions, so I need to be aware of them. I need to be on the ball about them. So I'm going to count 1 and 2 and 3 E and 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 now I'm going to put 4 and, yeah, in terms of timing. I know it's fret 3 and fret 4, but in terms of timing it's 4 and leading up to 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and of the next bar. Third bar being the same as the first bar, and they're very easy, aren't they? They're just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, yeah, minim, 1 and 2 and crotchet, 1 beat each. So let me do that second bar again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and then I put that 1 with the next bar in. But let me just try doing the second bar by itself. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. And I would practice this, if you can be bothered, it really is good practice, by getting a metronome, playing the bar, just do it for about 30 seconds, yeah, or a minute, yeah, a minute would be good, and then just leave it, because then just do it the next day. Little and often, unless you love this sort of thing. Some people do. Most people find it's a bit, drives them a bit mad. So what I would do, the exercise I was talking about, the way of practicing it, is you have your metronome going click, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's slow it down for demonstration purposes. And of course, when you practice it, start slow at a speed that you can easily count the subdivisions. Because if you've got it going 1, 2, 3, 4, it's very difficult to count 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander. So this is a slow song anyway. It's a ballad, pop ballad, as it says. It's got 75 beats per minute. That's the crotchet, equals 75. That's what that means. I would practice this at 60 beats per minute. Not the song, but the difficult parts. Yeah, the difficult parts in timing. So I would practice this bit: 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see what I'm doing there? I'm leaving a bar's rest in between. I don't want to just like loop them one after the other. That would be confusing. So I practice the slightly difficult timing that I am practicing, and I do it in discrete units. Yeah, so I give myself a rest in between. Yeah, and that really helps the timing go in, rather than have to worry about what's coming next. Yeah, I don't want to worry about what's coming next. I just want to focus on this timing because that's the difficult bit. What's coming next is easy. It's that bar again of 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and yeah, very, very laid back, easy. Okay, so that's how I practice that, and that's how I practice any difficult timing. Yeah, so I just do that once more. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. But instead of me counting, I mean, I might be counting in my head or indeed even out loud, but there'd be a metronome keeping the beat. I just haven't put the metronome on because I'm doing this on video and blah-de-blah. Okay, so that's the most difficult part in terms of timing. Yeah, I know there's a slight variation of it later on. Come back screen. Now, like I said, bar 1 and 3 are exactly the same. Then we have bar 4. What's the timing there? Pretty easy because it's just minims and quavers, or what do the Americans call minims? Half notes, and quavers eighth notes. Yeah, because the Americans talk about the actual time of the bar it takes up. A minim takes up half a bar. It's 2 beats. It takes up half a bar of 4/4. A quaver takes up an eighth of a bar of 4/4. So they just, in that very American way, just say it like it is. Is that what they do? Anyway, 1 and 2 and then it's tied to the first part of beat 3. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, yeah, that's bar 4 I'm talking about. Last bar of the first line. I'll do that again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I would practice that in the same way if you need to, only if you need to, of course, but if you need to, loop that, put the metronome on, and again, don't spend too much time on it. You don't want to make it boring. I mean, if you love it, great, but if you don't, just do it a minute, because, you know, anybody can get themselves to do something for a minute, I guess. They tell me that about, I don't know, Pilates or something. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because the frets just 5, 3 and 5, aren't they? Now you'll notice my picking technique is the typical bass thing of 2 and 3 and, I got it wrong, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, typical bass thing of course when I'm on this lowest string, or thickest string, I pluck and my finger just comes back to the palm. Yeah? But when I pluck these strings, as I've talked about before, I'm doing this rest stroke thing of my finger, yeah, I pull it over the string. I don't dig in, yeah. I just want to, they're too thick to dig in. My finger will get stuck. So I just basically let it rest on the string and pull upwards towards my palm, yeah. And then as I pull upwards, rather than this and the finger being in the air, it comes to rest on the string directly above it, yeah? So I'm plucking that A string and it comes to rest, my finger comes to rest on the E string. Now, also notice the position of my finger, the shape of my finger when I do that rest stroke, and the shape of my finger when I do a free stroke, yeah, this plucking and then your finger just comes out here. Well, this takes more force, more likely to get the finger stuck behind the string. So this shape, this technique is used, but it's used much more in is used much more in funk. Yeah, that what they call a slap and pop. Slap with the thumb, pop with the finger, which is a whole different technique. This is a very laid back ballad, and so you want that softer sound of plucking with the fingers. And when you do the rest stroke, it's easier for you to pluck than when you do the free stroke, yeah? Because like I said, it's really quite easy to get the finger stuck behind the string when you're doing the free stroke. And so then that tends to require much more force to pull it out. And then you get that sound, which suits, you know, an aggressive style or an up energy style of funk, but it doesn't suit this. So this stuff, this rest stroke style, this suits this. and it will make it easier. I mean, I'm saying, I guess, like basically, be a good thing to get used to this rest stroke technique, because it certainly makes it easier than that. Yeah. Although everybody's different, so if you do find yourself, it's just as I did that, I suddenly felt, it's not too bad. But actually, it can be not too bad, but my fingers are sometimes getting stuck or nearly getting stuck under the string. So by all means, carry on with that technique. I mean, that'll be useful to you as well. But I really would, especially now we've all got more time on our hands, I really would say get used to that rest stroke as well. Yeah, start incorporating that and making that part of your technique, because both the ease with which you can play it once you get used to it, and the sound, it's a different sound. This is a softer sound than this. I mean, this is quite a soft sound because I'm just doing it really gently, but it's so damn, throat again. You're so prone to getting a finger stuck, and so you might be going along gently, and then just one note pops out like that, and you don't want it to. So, right, I spent quite enough time talking about that technique, but it is an important one, the rest stroke. Yeah. So, because really there is no technical challenge in this piece apart from this rest stroke, typical bass technique, and the timing bits. So let's get on to the second line, and we've got that bar of, we've gone 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now you notice the way I'm fretting, which fingers I'm using throughout the piece. We've got an open E string, and then we're around frets 3 and 5. 1 and 2. No, sorry, we start on fret 5. 1 and 2, but then we have the open E string, fret 3 and then 5. So it makes a lot of sense for my hand just to be here, to use my little finger for fret 5 and my first finger for fret 3, and then fingers 1 and 2 for frets 3 and 4. Yeah, 1, 2, and 4. Yeah. So on that last bar of the first line, bum, bum. Now I'm going to take my little finger up to the 7th fret, because you can see the next two notes are 7 there, 5 there. Then we've got a 9 here. Now to get that 7, 6, 5, I'm going to jump down. I know my first finger is right there, but to do that all with the first finger probably isn't as easy as if little finger, it's on fret 9, I'm going to jump and use my second finger for fret 7 on the A string. Then I've got the choice of either moving my second finger down for fret 6 and my first finger for fret 5, or I would probably do this: second finger, first finger on fret 6, and then first finger on fret 5. Yeah. And then the timing of that bar, again, best thing to do is just listen to the piece and get it from that. Yeah. So tab, you get where the notes are, and then for timing, listen to the piece. But because I'm doing a lesson, I'll talk about the timing as is notated, and like I said, it is a good skill to learn anyway. It takes time, but it really does help in the end. Now, so in that bar, this is bar 6, the first bar of the second line, we've got 1 and 2, and because that first crotchet, 1 and, isn't just a crotchet, it's got a dot on it, so that makes it half as long again. So rather than just 1 and, we've got 1 and 2, it lasts that long. And then you've got that note on the and of 2, so 1 and 2 and 3 and you can see that comes on the end of 2, and it's notated as a quaver. Then the quaver is tied to a crotchet, so this is going to last for the and of 2 and the whole of beat 3, as in 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and then those last 3 notes in that bar are all within beat 4. Now the note on fret 9 is a quaver, so that lasts half the beat, and then the last two notes, 7 and 6 on the frets, they're semiquavers. Yeah, they've got two horizontal lines on the tail, so they're semiquavers. So once we get to that beat 4, I'd be counting in semiquavers again. I'd count it as 4E and it would be 4E and 4E and yeah, because this is a quaver which takes up two semiquavers, which is 4E, and then we've got two semiquavers left because the beat is divided into four semiquavers. So 4E and then it takes you down to the first beat of the next bar. Yeah, and the next bar has got the same timing as we did on A minor. Yeah, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Come back screen. And there you might have noticed I did this, finger 1, finger 2, and finger 1. I just did that from habit. If I was really used to playing this song, I would probably just go, like I said before, finger 1, 2, 4, because I'm very soon going to go 0, 3, yeah, so I want that first finger there for fret 3. Now, just to go back to the timing on bar 6, first bar of the second line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 4E and I wasn't fast enough, because when I get to the end of 4 I should be on fret 7, so let me take it slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and yeah, and I would do that again. I'd isolate that bar, put the metronome on at 60 BPM, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, oh god, I keep messing up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3E. That's where I keep messing up 3E. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1. That's too fast, isn't it? It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2, no, I've forgotten that. 1 and 2 and 3E and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3E and 4, and as soon as I hit 3 I've got to do that 3E and if I'm counting at all. Yeah. Like I said, get it by feel if you can. 1 and 2 and 3E and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3E and 4 and 1 and 2 and scroll up 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3E and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and now here, why did I do this? Why did I take my finger up here? Because it had the note on the 8th fret here, whereas before it had it on the 3rd fret here, so you can play it wherever you like. Then this bar, which is 10, 11, 12, 13, third line down, last bar of the third line down, where it's saying A2. So here we got 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now 1, then we get to that bar that we just did the timing on. Same bar, same, yeah, it's exactly the same, repeated. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and except they've written it wrongly this time. Yeah, that's a shame. So bar 14, yeah, fourth line down, first bar, bar 14, the standard notation is written wrongly. You'll see the tab. Is it written wrongly? Probably is. I mean, I can't remember if there's actually change in the song, but there's too many notes there to fit in. Is there? Let me just check that. Oh no. Okay, I see what they've done. Okay, no. So it's slightly different, is it? So they got 1 and 2 and 3 and so you're going to that note on the 9th fret a bit earlier, because in bar 6 you had a quaver tied with a crotchet, and this time you've just got 2 quavers tied. So you're spending less time on less time on fret 5 and more time on fret 9. Yeah, so fret 9 is going to come earlier in this bar. Not that anybody you ever play this to would notice. So, I mean, because people just won't notice stuff like that. Yeah, and also, yes, of course, the performance is captured on record and is exactly the same, but when people play it live, they'll vary it a lot. Yeah, but for that bar 14, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's see, you've got to add up the notes to see if it works. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, that's the first one, and then 3 and, that's the second one, 3 and 4 and, yeah, they've messed that up because it doesn't add up in terms of timing. Because all the notes in the bar have to add up to 4 beats, yeah? And what we've got here is a crotchet, a dotted crotchet, so that's 1.5 beats. So we've got 1 and 2, it covers that. And the second bit, 1 and 2 and 3. Oh, sorry, and 4. Yeah, it still doesn't quite add up. I would, yeah, I don't think they've written it right. I would play bar 14 as you play bar 6, unless when you actually listen to the song, it's strikingly different, in which case let me know and we'll address that, because I can't remember offhand. The next bar, bar 15, D minor 7, now it's that timing again of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but instead of just 1 E open E note, you got 2, and you can see that they're semiquavers, yeah, because these 0 0 in bar 15, where those 2 zeros, if you look above in the standard notation, you can see both notes, they've got the double line going across, yeah, the double vertical line, sorry, the double horizontal line going across. So we've got 1 and 2 and, let's see, what were we doing? Instead of 1 and 2 and 3 E and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and, yeah, because that beat 3 is a quaver, which is tied to the minim before it on fret 5, and then 2 semiquavers. So 3 E and 4 and 3 E and 4 and. But this is tied to the, like I said, to the minim before it. So you got 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Then you got section B, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, apparently 6 bar rest. And then you've just got the same stuff again. Yeah, exactly the same stuff again. I'll listen to that, because bar 30 they've written like bar 16. bar 16. Bar 30 they've written like bar, where is it? Sorry, bar 14. Bar 30 they've written like bar 14. And I'm struggling to see how that works. Let's see, 1 and 2 and, yeah, they're missing out. Are they? No, they're not. No, sorry, this is taking time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, no, it does work. Okay, let me work that out. So I'm looking at the timing of bar 14 and bar 30. We got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Why can't I get this? I should have looked at this earlier. I might have to do a separate video on it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that 9th fret comes on the and of 3. Yeah, it's the way they've written it is not a very clear way of doing it, and my reading isn't good. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4E and yeah, it does. It's a very yeah. Okay, my reading isn't good, but that is a really bad way of writing it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and except it's frets 7 and 6 rather than 5 and 6. But this is the timing for bars 14 and 30. And this is the sort of thing that people get from, listening and feel much more than reading, unless you're a classical musician or you're a session musician. Yeah, you kind of need to know this stuff for being a session musician. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2. Yeah. So again, I would do, if you want to, don't do it if it just sucks all the joy out of it. Don't do it. At some point in the future, you might want to do it. If you have any interest in it, do try it. Yeah. So again, this exercise of putting on the metronome, 60 beats per minute, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and I just took 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2. Yeah. Okay, so that covers the whole piece. Sorry, I spent about God knows how long, 5 or 10 minutes on that timing on bars 14 and 30. But like I said, yeah, written pretty badly, and my reading's not great, and I'm not familiar enough with the song to know like intricate little, oh, did that come on the half beat there, or yeah. But basically, the main thing is ain't no sunshine when she's gone. And then I can't remember the timing, but we've been through it, and so hopefully that's all right for you. All right, see ya.